On the worn streets of Atlanta's South End, where promise often suffocated under cracked pavement and flickering streetlights, the Randall family survived, quietly, fiercely, and without apology. Tasha Randall, a woman whose life had been measured in double shifts and sleepless nights, wore the calluses of sacrifice and the posture of resolve. For over 14 years, she'd raised her sons, Caleb and Terrence, alone, not just against poverty, but against the ache of invisibility, against a system that always seemed to assume the worst of boys who looked like hers. Before dawn each day, Tasha dragged herself across the city to scrub office floors for executives who never learned her name. From there, she flipped eggs and poured stale coffee at a greasy spoon-off Peachtree, smiled through catcalls and rude patrons under the cold hum of flickering bulbs, only to end each day behind the bulletproof glass of a gas station that sold more lottery tickets than hope. She counted every minute, every dollar, every bruise to her pride, all to feed one unshakable belief. Her boys would not die in this neighborhood. Caleb, her eldest, was different. Quiet, bright. The kind of child who looked at planes overhead not with envy, but with determination. He read every book the local library offered on aeronautics, building model aircraft from cardboard scraps and old glue. At 14, he'd mastered flight simulators with a focus and fluency that startled the few who ever noticed. Terrence, younger by 2 years and twice as fiery, didn't care for planes himself, but he believed in Caleb like most kids believe in superheroes. For years, Tasha saved what she could. No new clothes. No indulgences. She walked miles rather than pay for the bus, packed leftovers in reused foil, patched her shoes until the soles barely held. She moved like a ghost in her own life, always present, never seen, until she held, with trembling hands, 3 one-way tickets to Los Angeles. A city she barely understood, a place she only imagined through movie scenes and whispered hope. But there, she believed, her sons might finally outrun Atlanta's slow decay. They left behind the only home they'd ever known, a cramped apartment decorated with memory more than furniture, and boarded the city bus to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport with 2 overstuffed duffel bags and the clothes on their backs. As the gray buildings and graffiti-tagged brick faded into the rear view, Tasha vowed never to bring her sons back to a world that had asked so much and given so little. Caleb sat pressed against the bus window, already miles above the streets below, dreaming in jet engines and runway lights. Terrence leaned into him, half asleep, grinning. "You gonna fly us there yourself, Captain C?" he murmured. In that small moment, amid a life full of hardship and near misses, Tasha allowed herself to believe, just for a breath, that maybe it was finally time to rise. The airport was chaos wrapped in light. Shouting travelers, beeping carts, polished floors reflecting it all like water. For the Randalls, it was overwhelming. Tasha had never flown before. She'd never even set foot in an airport, let alone dreamed of passing through one. But she gripped her boys' hands tight and forced her legs to keep moving. For them. Always for them. As they passed through security, Caleb kept stealing glances at the planes visible beyond the glass. Metal giants, each one breathing fire and promise. Terrence teased him, bumping shoulders. "You're probably better than those real pilots anyway," he joked, loud enough to draw a few stares. Caleb grinned, but inside he was already rehearsing. Flight checklists, throttle ranges, emergency procedures. He couldn't help it. It was muscle memory by now. Their flight, Pacific Crest Air, Flight 992, would board in less than an hour. Tasha clutched their boarding passes like holy scripture, checking the gate over and over. They settled near Gate C9, surrounded by tired families and men in suits shouting into phones. The Randalls were silent, clutching their few things, absorbing the scale of everything around them. Pre-boarding was called. Terrence hooped. Caleb smiled. They lined up with the others, scanning their IDs and walking toward a future no one in Atlanta would have predicted for them. "No matter what happens," Tasha whispered into Caleb's ear, her voice tight with emotion, "you were born for more than this world ever gave you." He nodded, blinking quickly. The plane, silver, sleek, impossibly real, stood waiting. As they boarded, Caleb ran his fingers along the doorway frame, mouthing a quiet, uncertain prayer. "Let this bird fly true." They took their seats mid-cabin. Tasha in the aisle, Terrence at the window, Caleb in the middle. Seatbelts clicked. Bins slammed shut. And somewhere ahead, behind a door that might as well have been carved from stone, Captain Roger Flynn and First Officer Darrell Hughes prepared to guide their ship into the sky. Engines whined to life, low and powerful. Caleb felt the vibration in his bones. Not fear, something deeper, something holy. As the plane began to taxi, he looked from his grinning brother to his mother's strained smile and whispered to himself, "Whatever happens up there, I will not let us fall." They lifted off. Atlanta fell behind like a memory unraveling in slow motion. The sky opened. The plane climbed. And Caleb Randall stopped being a boy in a dream. He became a watcher, a listener, cataloging every sound and motion like gospel. At cruising altitude, flight attendants moved about. Among them Camille Ford, a tall, no-nonsense woman with 30 years of sky behind her. She gave the safety speech, handed out drinks, smiled in that practiced way flight attendants do. Most passengers ignored it. But Caleb? He absorbed every word. The seatbelt light pinged off. Some stood to stretch. Others pulled out snacks. Caleb didn't move. He watched the wings, listened to the engines. Something deep in his chest stayed coiled, a thread of unease he couldn't explain. Then came the tremor. Small, barely there. A hiccup in the smooth drone of flight. Camille's voice returned, calm but firm. "Please return to your seats. Fasten your belts." Then a drop, quick and hard. A murmur rippled through the cabin. A child whimpered. Caleb's eyes locked on the attendants. They were whispering now. Too quickly, too pale. Another jolt. Overhead, bins rattled. A coffee cup tumbled and shattered. Camille banged on the cockpit door. No answer. The descent wasn't turbulence. It was something else. Wrong. Dangerous. Panic bloomed. Passengers screamed. The plane tilted. A freefall sensation took hold. And in the chaos, Caleb stood. Terrence grabbed his hand. "What are you doing?" Caleb's jaw tightened. "Trying." Together, they shoved forward. Past bodies. Past terror. To the front of the plane. Camille blocked them, shouting over the roar, "Sit down." Caleb screamed back. "The pilots are down. I can fly it." A voice, deep, angry, cut through. "You letting a kid fly us now?" shouted a tall man in a business suit, face red with rage. Camille hesitated. She looked in Caleb's eyes and saw something she hadn't expected, certainty. She opened the emergency override. Inside the cockpit, chaos. Alarms. Flashing lights. Both pilots unconscious, slumped in their chairs. The controls screamed warnings in red and amber. Caleb froze for only a second. Then he moved. "Sit," he barked to Terrence. "Find the comms. Channel 1. Emergency frequency." Terrence scrambled. Caleb grabbed the yoke, checking instruments like he'd done 1,000 times, just never for real. The radio crackled. "Flight 992, we see you dropping. Respond. This is Caleb Randall. I'm 14. The pilots are down. I'm flying. I need help." Silence. Then a woman's voice. "Copy that, Caleb. I'm Julie at Seattle Center. We're going to bring you home." They had altitude, but they were bleeding it fast. Julie walked him through stabilization. Trim. Throttle. Pitch. Caleb talked to the plane like it was alive. Like it could hear him. And maybe it could, because something shifted. The dive slowed. Terrence read the gauges. "We're still falling." "Trim again," Caleb whispered. "Ease her up." It took everything. Every ounce of strength. But they leveled off, barely. Then the storm came. Lightning. Wind shear. Turbulence that ripped at the plane's body like claws. Caleb fought to avoid it. Julie guided. Terrence prayed aloud. But they fought through. And then, more alarms. Fuel. Hydraulics. Systems shutting down. Still, Caleb flew. The airport appeared. Small. Rough. But real. "We're too heavy," he muttered. "Dump fuel," Julie ordered. Terrence flipped the switches. The plane groaned. The mob behind the cockpit door pounded again, shouting. But Caleb didn't hear them. He saw the runway. "Brace positions," he ordered over the intercom. The plane dropped fast. Too fast. Final approach. No margin for error. "Flare," Julie called. Caleb pulled the nose up. The wheels hit. Hard. Screeching. Smoky. Skidding. Terrence slammed the emergency brakes. They stopped. Silence. Then cheers. Screams. Crying. Camille burst into the cockpit. Fell to her knees. Hugged them both. Outside, medics swarmed. Reporters shoved microphones forward. But Caleb barely heard. His mom ran to him, sobbing, holding him and Terrence tight. Then, from the crowd, a man stepped forward. Silky suit ruined. Eyes wet. It was Everett Monroe, a billionaire flying anonymously. He knelt before them. "The world may not deserve you," he said, voice hoarse, "but we need you." There, on the hood of a fire truck, he signed a handwritten pledge, full scholarships. Real opportunity. A job offer for Tasha. The Randalls cried together. For once, tears of relief. Months passed. Life changed. Tasha became a respected coordinator at Monroe's company. They moved into a clean apartment in Santa Clarita. Caleb enrolled at an aviation academy. Terrence pursued engineering. Years later, Caleb Randall sat in the left seat of Flight 811, Pacific Crest Air. Real wings pinned to his chest. Real passengers behind him. His mother and brother among them. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said over the intercom, "this is your captain speaking." And as the plane rose, smooth and certain, he looked out at the sky that had once threatened to end him and smiled. Because he had claimed it. All of it.